Hello, welcome, Renegade Inc. talk show, and here we are again, day 2, Camp Kotok. The noise behind us here is the lunch, and we have stolen Matt Tyrmand, and he is from Open the Books. Matt, tell me what Open the Books is all about.
Well, first, my pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. Open the Books is a 501c3 nonprofit tax-exempt education organization, and our mission is to put every dime of government spending online. We are a transparency big data project. We will not rest until we have every bit of American domestic government public sector spending online. We started with federal, and we started in the state of Illinois, which is the Super Bowl of corruption. It is the manufactured capital of corruption, all the way exported to the White House. So we have very, very good steeled spines in dealing with state corruption. We now have spending from all 50 states, pensions, active salaries, and vendor contract spending. We're missing certain tranches of data, like federal pensions. We will be suing the Office of Personnel Management in D.C. for federal pensions. And what this project does is it creates not just the data set and allows people to look at, in their localities, the spending, but it creates an analytical tool for seeing the runaway growth in spending. When Nancy Pelosi says there's nowhere left to cut, I have 2.5 billion lines of public sector spending, and I beg to differ. There are plenty of places to cut, and pensions would be a great place to start.
The other thing it creates is a fair few enemies for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially in Illinois. Our genesis on the state level was having to sue the state of Illinois. My partner, his name is Adam Andrzejewski, he ran for governor in Illinois in 2010. And he ran on a platform of transparency in government spending in the state of Illinois. And his goal was a forensic audit, which in Illinois would uncover a lot of debauchery.
How did that go for him?
Well, what happened was, after he did not get very far in the primaries, a very crowded GOP primary in Illinois, which is not a GOP state, he is one of the first would-be elected officials who has fulfilled a campaign promise while not being elected. He went after Illinois state spending data, all the way from the state down to lowest level municipalities, school districts, water districts. And interestingly enough, the Democratic Attorney General and the Republican Comptroller, who is tasked with monitoring the spending and issuing the checks, they found common ground. Now, Democrats and Republicans in this country generally do not find common ground.
What was the common ground?
The common ground was blocking our effort to open up the books in Illinois.
You see, I told you, you're going to create enemies.
We certainly have. There has been a change of the guard in the Comptroller's office, but they're renewing the same policies, and now they're fighting us again to not renew the data, saying after we won in court that this was a courtesy. It wasn't a court-mandated decision. It was a courtesy on their part to give us the data, so now we have to go back to court to fight them.
Why are you doing all this?
Well, we believe that the only way to hold government accountable is to really make government transparent. You can't cut the spending if you can't see the spending. You cannot cut the corruption unless you can see the corruption. And the best way to see corruption in government is seeing where the money goes. And this is really true on the local level, especially. What we want to build is a tool that engages local citizens, because all politics is local. So if you can see that your superintendent of a school district is paying his brother a big contract well above market rate, parents, who are generally the most engaged part of the citizenry, will go to a school board meeting and demand accountability. So if we can spur that and go writ large with it, we will have success. And we're already having success on the federal level, doing a deep dive into federal spending complexes.
And excuse me revisiting this question, but why are you doing this? What drives you to do this? Because this, A, isn't an easy fight, B, it makes lots of enemies. See, there must be something else fizzing around in you. What is it?
Well, it really comes down to the people, my partner and I. Adam was he comes from downstate Illinois, farming family, working class, family farm, 7 kids, and they're always politically engaged, because farmers in the Midwest, they have to be engaged with the politics. Right. There's a lot that affects them. And so he thought
that, by the way, I think is the employment figures just coming out. That was
that was earlier today, and that was a non-event.
I interrupted you. So he's engaged.
And he was motivated after having a very successful entrepreneurial life. He built his own business, sold it to private equity. He wanted to enter public service. Now, I have one of the reasons that I am sort of in this Camp Kotok group is I've got a background in Wall Street. I was a portfolio manager in 2 sectors mainly, several big hedge funds, healthcare and telecommunications, 2 of the highest regulated sectors. So I've always had just innately a healthy distrust of government, and that stems a lot from my personal upbringing. My father was an anti-communist dissident in Poland, so it's really in the blood to distrust sort of centralizing power authorities. And then after being on Wall Street and watching the interventions take place in the market, 2008, 2009, and seeing, I went to University of Chicago and really am a free market economist in practice, and I believe that free markets equal free minds. And watching our state complex come into the marketplace, intervene on a scale that has never been to this degree in human history, especially in an evolved economy like ours, was a little bit of a shock that it could go this far. And so I became very disenchanted. I did not want to be part of this complex. I did not want to be just long because I wanted to ride the Fed QE infinity, zero interest rate policy dynamic. I just thought that was morally, it was not me putting my money where my mouth is, since I'm just as innately want to spread ideas. So I left Wall Street and I actually joined Adam Angievsky and opened the books. At that point, it was a 501c4 state-based organization in Illinois, and together we made it a national organization. In addition, which sort of dovetails, and we've talked about this in the past, is that I've gotten much more deeply involved in European politics.
See, I want to come on to this because you've got a unique take, really, on one quite specific region. It's Poland, and Poland has been held up in many ways as market liberalization's poster boy, if you like. You don't think that?
No, I do.
And let me qualify it, because they've had, supposedly 25 years of uninterrupted growth, and everything's going fine.
Yeah. Well, they have. Since 1989, since the fall of the wall and the breakdown of the Soviet system, there have been over a dozen countries that have come out and achieved and maintained their independence. Poland is the only one that has shown real economic growth. And it's true, since 1989, there hasn't been a single quarter of GDP contraction, not even close to a recession, which is really incredible. Now, I credit that with Leszek Balcerowicz, who is an academic economist who was elevated from finance minister to deputy prime minister, and he designed a program called shock therapy. And he rapidly and dramatically liberalized the economy. He spun out a lot of the public state enterprises and privatized them. The privatizations, and this was the early 90s, were not that smooth. There was a touch of oligarchical Russian-style privatization there, but it was the best that could be done at the time, and it allowed a reset to occur. And that reset allowed unfettered market forces to take over, the animal spirits, if you will, to quote Adam Smith. And I liken it to China. So China has come out of in this what they call state-sponsored socialism, but what they have is a billion people who want to work, who want to consume more, and just being allowed to do so has unleashed a tailwind of animal spirits that, because the scale of the country is so massive, and has allowed for decades plus and potentially many more decades of uninterrupted growth. In Poland, you also have a decently scaled society. You have 40 million people. It's the sixth largest economy and nation by population in Europe, in the EU and in Europe. I don't exclude Russia in that measure. And they did these moves in the early 90s that allowed them to unleash these animal spirits. So combine that with a very technically savvy, highly educated, highly entrepreneurial culture. Poland has been oppressed for 500 years by Prussians, Germans, Austro-Hungarians, Soviets, and Russians. So they've always had thriving black markets.
So what's the problem?
So the problem is that over the last 10 years, you've had a very Eurocentric, Brussels-centric, statist socialist party take over, and they have initially ran on a platform of closer European integration with the promise that that would create more opportunity. But what has happened was it hasn't created more opportunity. What's happened is it's allowed a government state to grow and crowded out. I get asked all the time at conferences in Poland, you talk about this Polish growth over the last 20 years, but where have the wages gone? Wages are literally stagnant, same level as in the year 2000, and GDP has grown over 40% in that time period. So where have the wages gone? And I can answer that quite simply. Government. Government has grown. If you're a member of parliament, the Sejm in Poland, in 2000 and in the late 90s, you had 5 staffers. Now you have 25 staffers. There are agencies, there are regulations, there is a much more Byzantine tax code that's hostile to entrepreneurship. And then when I see this incumbent party, Platforma Obywatelska, civic platform, talk all the time about liberalizing the economy further, less hostility to entrepreneurs, lowering taxes, it's all rhetoric. And I'll give you a great example. After President Kaczynski's plane went down in Smolensk in 2010, they held a snap election. Donald Tusk was already prime minister, so PO had a very strong foothold already in parliament. And they were able to win the presidency, which together the coalition of parliament and the presidency can do a lot. And I was there in Gdynia at a conference a week before the election, and it was Friday afternoon, and on Friday they were saying, you know, we're going to lower taxes, we're going to lower the VAT, we're going to do all these things that are economically liberal, and in the European sense, classically liberal, not in the progressive American sense. And that was a Friday, and on Sunday was the election, they won, and on Monday they raised the VAT from 19 to 23%. So I always say in Poland, watch what people do, not what they say, because the talk is very cheap there. And to further compound matters, the sort of institutionalized corruption that's taken hold when you have a statist mechanism entrenching itself is that they will do whatever they can to maintain power. And this was most recently seen last year when there were undercover tapes that were aired by a reform-oriented news weekly, Wprost, who, in full disclosure, I do write for. And I write for them because I was very proud of what they did in airing these tapes, to huge risk to their persons and to their organization and to their company, their media company. And one of those tapes was especially shocking. Marek Belka, who is president, head of the National Bank of Poland, the central bank. And in Poland, the National Bank has a constitutional mandate to remain politically independent. It is an apolitical organization sourced with and mandated to tweak and manage monetary policy. He was caught on tape with Bartholomew Sienkiewicz, who was the interior minister, talking about their interest rate stratagem to keep rates low, to borrow as much as they can, coming off the heels of a pension nationalization. They nationalized the private sector segment of the pensions, with the express goal of swinging the elections. We need to keep rates low. We can't spook the markets and foreign direct investment any more than it's already been spooked post this pension nationalization. So we need to keep rates low. There is no greater law that could be broken by a central bank. And so I'm working on a column renewing the call to impeach and indict Marek Belka, because this is a criminal act. This is tantamount to stealing from 40 million people, more than 40 million people, because every investor, multinational foreign investor who's invested in Poland, invests in zloty-denominated assets. And by having those assets depreciated, you're subtly stealing value. And so I think this is a really a travesty. Of course, the Polish mainstream media never ever reported on the content of the tapes. They only reported on the privacy breach of high officials appointed and elected. So I like to suggest in Poland that I'd like to see body cameras on elected and appointed officials if they're doing our business, because they've proven themselves very venal and corruptible.
You seem we're back to this thing. You opened the books here, and now you're and transparency, and you're really having a go in Poland.
Yeah.
I wish you all luck with it.
Thank you. I like to joke that hopefully I won't end up in the bottom of the Vistula, which stranger things have happened in Poland.
Well, I hope not to. Keep going. It's the foundation of democracy, of course, this kind of transparency, and I'm sure that's what you're aiming at.
Yeah, and free express transparency is a way, forcing transparency is a way of the citizens allowing their own expression. The ability to dig and hold accountable is a form of expression, and it's not just they're not just at war with it in Poland, but all EU-wide and in the U.S. And this is sort of the fight I'm engaged in, and dovetailing with my father's experience as an anti-communist dissident, is fighting for our fundamental classically liberal post-Enlightenment rights.
For which I wish you all luck. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you so much.
That's it for the Renegade Inc. talk show. Matt, thanks again. Back very soon. Bye.